Have you checked out the new album by Dim yet? It's called Planet in the Soil, and it's 10 songs of crushing screamo post-hardcore. Pick up a cassette from Self-Versed Records or an LP from No Funeral Records. Check out the album at dimscreamo.bandcamp.com. Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. I'm Edie Quinn, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Before we get started, though, I'd like to remind you of our Patreon page at patreon.com/humanmachine. You can sign up there to support the show, read all kinds of zines, and get music sneak peeks and more. That's patreon.com/humanmachine. And now I'd like to play something for you. You're hearing Sommer by Burial Joy, featuring my new pal, Lo, on vocals. The song comes from their debut album, Heirloom, which you can find at burialjoy.bandcamp.com.
Circus Survive was always kind of present. At this point, I'd listened to a lot of post-hardcore, all the classics, all the standards. And then I discovered Circus Survive, and I listened to them, and they were really good. And then I heard Every Way off their Appendage EP. And something about that chorus, something about the notes that he did, I think that is the moment that I said that I need to be able to do that. At this point, I've kind of been interested in music seriously since I was younger. I've never really been a passive listener. I was, 10, getting random CDs and listening to it all the way through, and in my little journal marking, did I like the percentage of the songs? So if there were 12 tracks and I liked 8 of them, well, it's a good album. I'll keep the album. So I was doing that with my Walkman in my guest room, you know what I mean? Just like that was my little music den. Uh-huh. And I don't know, I always wrote. I was writing songs in like 8th grade. They weren't good, but I was still doing the intentional act, So I was always interested, and realistically, I just wrote poetry, and I thought, well, the only way that I can ever use this is in a song. I don't know if I want to market myself as a poet. I'm more of a writer, and I became a musician specifically to push my craft further. But again, that moment when I heard Every Way, I realized that was the skill that I wanted to get. How did I really want to convey my art? That was just one of the most important aspects of how to influence myself as a vocalist.
Yeah. Well, why did you think that? Why did you think that saying, "Hey, I'm a poet," and just putting the raw words out there wasn't viable? Was it were you not seeing? Did you need more physicality to the expression, or was it you weren't seeing yourself in what you knew of poetry publication or whatever?
I don't think it was a conscious decision. I think it was more along the lines of, again, as a little kid, really enjoying music. I think I normalized bands and music and the concept of performance early in my life. I've always been active, just physically active. I would swim a lot. I would climb around a lot. So me using my body has been important and an important part of my character since very, very early consciousness. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So I think the concept of performing has always been on my radar as a possibility.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
for
I
sure.
don't think I actively went, oh, I need to be able to perform it. I think I went, I'm writing and I enjoy writing. May as well make sure that it fits in the song structure. Like, I mean, I was in poetry class well, no, I lied. I was in poetry club. And then I also in classes where we did poetry in like the composition or literary arts or whatever.
Hmm.
Mine was always pretty good, right? The teacher really enjoyed the things that I wrote. One time she asked me to, I don't know if it was compete or present in something. I was a little too shy. I couldn't do it then. I had really bad, I guess, stage anxiety, though. How to get over that one. I think that happened because my first band. I think I finally figured out how to be comfortable on stage. Yeah.
Were you doing any like kind of theater in school or anything like that, or was it you know?
So middle school, I was in band. I attempted to play flute. And then that didn't work out. I went to the musician renter place, the place where you rent all the instruments.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and said, "You're a trombone guy." And then he handed me a trombone, and then I learned it. Did that in middle school all the way through. I think, pretty sure it was all the way through. Might have been the first year. Memory's bad. But then high school happened, and I kind of didn't really do much for the first leg of it. I was really moving around a lot. I really couldn't find any like structure. But then eventually I got into band and marching band and choir. I did a dance class. So I've always been in the arts. I marched sousaphone. I played baritone in band, and then just did choir because at that point I was starting to get my voice. College, my first year and a half, I was in this one college, and I made sure to be in the band and choir there. So that was fun. But then when I changed schools again, then it just didn't. I just didn't continue it
Yeah.
because I didn't really know how to figure it out for UCF. So then after that, I don't know. I was like, I still need this musical outlet. Music, band.
Were you playing in bands like outside of school at that time, or was this not until later?
So when I was like 18, 19, I got into my first band, Sonder Inspired. It was based out in Winter Haven, Lakeland area, and that was my first really foray into putting myself out there and writing original music. And like I'd written a lot of guitar and I'd written songs on top of it, but I never went through the effort of like producing, releasing, marketing, all that stuff, right? Like the whole shebang of it. And I just what is it? Yeah, so that was good. It was good learning experience. I wasn't good. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing at that point. But yeah, so I was in one project that lasted for a few years. We ended up parting ways, and then after that, I just was really trying to. I wrote my own solo stuff, and then I released that, and then after that, I think Burial Joy kind of came to existence.
Okay, so this is like this is all a pretty like sort of recent window as far as like the few projects that you've had.
Yeah.
Was your first thing like did you do it? Did it turn into a full band thing where you were playing shows and stuff like that, or was it just like you trying to get things off the ground and not quite getting all the way there?
Well, so we actually had some pretty decent shows in Sonder Inspired. So that's how I got kind of experience. Like we opened up for some decent bands. I don't. Again, memory's bad. I have a list of I keep a list of every band I've ever played with.
It sounds like you like
So
notebooks, yeah, for sure.
yeah, I definitely very much like writing. But so, I got some decent opportunities, and I was really just trying to figure it out. So we did start out pretty strong. We were setting up shows locally. We were getting show offers for Back Booth when it was still Back Booth, and Sonder. So we were doing the thing. It did go up, but we just didn't know what we were doing and didn't know how to push it and didn't know how to figure out the dynamics to keep things efficient. And then, granted, since I've been doing the band stuff since I was 18, 19, and I'm 28 now, so it has been
Oh, okay.
the better part of a decade that I've been, actively like doing this, but don't think I didn't think I really had enough knowledge going in. Obviously no one does, but then my second try with Burial Joy. It's definitely been a lot more fruitful. I think a lot more things have happened. Our connections are really good. And so like because I had that experience, because I knew promoters, because I had the network, as soon as Burial Joy started up and we had music able to be shown, Josh and I, the drummer, Josh was in so many bands at this point, like so many. But we basically what is it? We connected and started writing music, and we already had the network, and we were ready to go as soon as we decided that we were show ready. So it really wasn't hard to kind of like break out into the scene for Burial Joy. Sonder was more of a personal learning experience than anything, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, nobody has this figured out with their first band. I don't. I mean, I don't have it figured out now, which is fine for me.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the I think that a lot of the folks that I chat with, this is very much like a um, touring and sleeping on the floor, kind
Yep.
of like DIY group that I usually chat with, and sometimes like occasionally I chat with folks that are have a more like more they're reaching more like professional or semi-professional levels, however
Yeah.
you want to look at that, and all of that stuff is relative, I guess. It's just like
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
what
you
do
got the
you
whole
want to get
spectrum
out
there.
of it, and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
um but yeah, like learning experiences are obviously crucial to not just like your navigation of um, the support networks and like
Hmm.
etc., but also like just to your general like um,
Yeah,
art.
exactly.
So
I mean, like the most important thing, honestly, like I didn't really realize this when I was younger, but I did hear the phrase, and it definitely rings true. A lot of times, it's really not what you know, it's who you know, because at bare minimum, who you know can also teach you what you need to know, right?
yeah,
So again, like Sonder, we were trying to figure out, we were building our networks, we were personable, we made friends, like the friendships I've gotten from those experiences have lasted till today. But so having that experience and then being ready to go and just having that prior knowledge really allowed Burial Joy to, I guess, just get in front of more eyes, which as a band is the most important thing you can do. I mean, that's why social media marketing is so important. It's literally just making content so you can slap your music in front of people. You just need to come up with good visuals, you know?
yeah. um I want to go back a second to what you were saying before, where you were talking about like stage anxiety, and like you know, the way that we went from first project to this like relatively quickly. That's what gave me the impression that this had been a shorter period of time. But
Mm-hmm.
but what like was it from Sonder inspired? Like was that some your stage fright, or however you want to put it, was that something that was present in the beginning there and you had to work through during that project, or like how did you
Uh,
come to terms with all that?
Well, so mind you, all the performance experience I had before was very much like group oriented. Granted, yeah, I was the only tuba when I was in jazz band, right? So I couldn't mess up, right? Like I had focus on me, right? So, but I was always part of something bigger where this whole sound was coming together. And then joining a band, I was the vocalist. I had my own part that had to be noticed and recognized, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do I say, in that sorry, in that I was very much able to start. The anxiety was basically all eyes are on me, and I have a responsibility as 1/5 of the sound, right? Like that's what I'm getting at. Before it was a bigger sound with a lot more moving parts. I didn't really feel like all eyes were on me. I felt like I was part of something bigger, and being in a band is clearly part of something bigger. But being the vocalist, and especially knowing that so many eyes are on the vocalist innately, right,
Yeah,
inherently.
for sure.
Um, It was that. It was also, it was the first time that things I had written were being shared and presented. And, you know, sharing your art, you're sharing your art is a very vulnerable thing. Um, Especially if you're writing your emotions, you know, it's not
Mm-hmm.
just like, there's nothing wrong with writing marketable music, but if you're actively writing what you feel, then you're telling everyone what you feel every time, you know. um and basically the anxiety came from just not, how do you explain being a person that craves attention and also a person that is so just embarrassed and anxious about getting eyes on you? Being perceived is a very understood scary topic by many people, but yet I want to do something that kind of forces me into the spotlight. It's not that I really want to be there, but I am a person that is capable of being there, and I do feel alive when I have that pushing me. So the anxiety is really just being comfortable presenting myself, the imposter syndrome in the beginning, wondering, do I belong on this stage? Am I, you know, I'm in a band, but are we a real band? And then you come to questions like, what is a real band? And it's just all of the questions that you ask yourself when you're trying to figure out your identity, because unfortunately your identity is very important when you're trying to be a public figure and introducing yourself into the world. You know, does that all
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And you know, it's this is a completely different way of coming to these same kinds of conclusions or whatever, but it's like I've been sort of like, I mean, I struggle with imposter syndrome and whatnot like all the time, but coming to it from a sort of different place is like I'm you know, I was just like I was I was thinking about something that I'm gonna do with this piece of work that I've been working on for like 2 years, and I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I should update like my bio, as it were, on like, you know, some of my things, right? And I'm like, wow, like I've been a published cartoonist like
Mhm.
3 times, you know, or whatever, and
Mhm.
that's not nothing. And so like why when I present something new am I kind of always like, if you think it's cool, then yeah, check it out. If not, like, no worries. Like, why do I have a hard time saying like this thing that I did was cool? Like,
Yeah.
and it's it goes back to what you were saying, because like you do have to show people that you believe in what you're doing to that
Yep.
extent, you know, and you
Yep.
have to be like, um you know, like we all appreciate like the people that check out what we do, but sometimes we feel like we're asking for a lot by being
Oh
like,
yeah.
check it
Yeah.
out, you know.
To demand attention from other people is always just kind of nerve wracking. I mean, we in the band sometimes joke about how we have a captive audience. Thank you, Shelby, for creating that for us. You know, 152, because we're on the bill, you're at the show, you're gonna hear what we have to offer. So I want to make sure that at least what we do have to offer is something enjoyable and something creative and interesting. But I mean, realistically, they're there, and if they don't like it, they're still listening to it.
Right.
So just a big thing is like acknowledging, I don't know, being comfortable and confident in your stuff, because if they don't like it, they're going to think that because you're actively in front of them. They don't really have the option to leave if they're there for the headliner. They're there for that touring act that they've loved since high school, or you know, new artists that they just discovered that they're really excited to see. And then the opener is us. Well, they're there, you
Yeah.
know. So just knowing that you are commanding people's attention and doing your best to make it an enjoyable experience is a very just difficult concept sometimes to wrap my head around.
Yeah. Yeah, um it's it is wild. I mean, and you know, right now you're talking about like an experience at a show. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you navigate like this? How do you navigate this ask when it comes to people checking out your stuff online? And like you've mentioned, like using social media tools and trying to present a like a an interesting like
Mm-hmm.
video blurb or graphic,
Yeah.
to entice people, and you don't have that, like, you use the term captive audience. So
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah. No, I get you.
that's where this other thing comes into play sometimes, where you like you're people are attracted to this like larger than life persona, right?
Well,
So
yeah.
um is that like a part of what you think a band or like an individual in a band like needs to do to engage with people in that arena of like um of creation, or whatever, like
Yeah.
is
Um. Well, yes. It really, at that point, it depends on how far you want to take it. How big do you really, really want to try to be, right?
sure.
Um, if I didn't care and I was just in a band because I really just, I don't know. If I did not have any interest in touring, if didn't have any interest in being in a successful band, if I truly had this is just fun, it's a hobby, well, then I probably wouldn't focus too much on social media marketing because I'm just happy to play shows in the local area, and that's totally fine. There is nothing wrong with just pursuing music solely as a passion, right? Um, but when it comes to being online and presenting yourself, if you want to have as many people see you and you understand that it's all up to the algorithm, or if they don't like the first 30 seconds or 2 seconds, if they don't like the first 2 seconds, they'll swipe because you know how content
Oh,
is now,
sure.
right? At that point, that's really just one, how bad do you really want to do it, and what are you willing to put up with? I mean, I don't know a single musician doing online stuff that doesn't have their own marketing team. Like, they are the musician doing it, they are the guitarist of their band and the media guy. I don't know a single one that personally wants to be doing that. They want to make music. That's why they're the musician. They're not selling themselves to other people as a marketer, right?
Right.
And it's really, what are you willing to put up with to make it work? Do you have the support network around you that will put up with other things you don't want to put up with? So that way you can put up with the thing that you don't want to, while other people are doing that as well, and just finding that homogeny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a lot of the marketing stuff is then, okay, I've come to the decision that yes, I want to do it. I want to get bigger. I want more people to see me, and I'm willing to do the thing that I don't want to do, because no one is doing solely what they want to do in this. That's part of the whole thing. You got to do things you don't want to. But then when you say yes to all that, you go, okay, now I need the actual knowledge. I need to know how to use a video editing software. I need to know how to record audio in such a way that is pleasing to listen to if I'm talking, into it. What is the algorithm favoring? What apps is my content meant for? The content that I'm good at making, does that belong on YouTube? Okay, well, if that belongs on YouTube, then I need to come up with content that would belong in Reels. And it's just figuring out the objective nature of everything you're trying to do right after deciding the subjective nature of, like, yes, I want to do it. You
Yeah.
know?
So do
You
you
got to have that commitment, and then you have to put the actual effort behind the commitment.
sort of section off like these sort of uh, these the responsibilities that go beyond just playing the drums or the guitar to the different members of the band, and everybody has like sort of their thing that they do, or have
That's
you
the
taken a
that
lot of it?
Well, that's the goal.
Yeah.
It's definitely something easier said than done. Because working with such a large group of people, and mind you, 5 people is not a massive group, right? I've been in other creative endeavors that have to deal with a lot more coordination because of that. But when it comes to 5 people, right, it's a mix of having a lot of responsibility percentage on each. Like 20% is a big amount, but also still having to coordinate that many people can be difficult. And finding out who is good at what takes time. I'm still discovering things that I'm good at and going, oh, I should probably do that, right? So I think that those type of dynamics will change all the time. I know I'm not an artist. I'm not going to be the one making the merch, but I do know people that can make merch. You know, again,
Yeah.
it goes back to that networking thing. I don't think I don't think it's necessarily completely feasible to have a fully independent person in a project, or to have everything solved by all the people in there. There's some bands that are able to do that, and I think that that is the outlier. I think ultimately it's learning what you have to work with and then working around that to the best of everyone's interests. You know, it's
Yeah.
very democratic. It has to be, everyone has to sign off, or at least the majority has to sign off, and the ones that don't sign off on that have to trust that we have their best interest in mind, or something like that. Like usually we're pretty good at coming to an idea all together. So that's not like a concern about us individually, but just understanding the dynamics that come into play with decision making and responsibility. It's very complicated, and it's not something that's just, oh, you have it figured out, this is going to be consistent forever. You know, things are going to change. You might, down the line, we might not have our shirt person anymore, the person that did our art. We might not be able to work with them for one reason or another, and now we have to figure out someone else. Well, we find this person, and then their logistical business sense is totally different. So now we have to figure out, what do we want to do? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't like texting through Instagram. They want it purely business, email, professional. All right, well, maybe the guy that was hitting them up casually on Instagram can't write an email, right? Doesn't have that business sense. Well, then another member of the band might take that over.
Yeah.
That's not, again, necessarily a specific thing that's happened with us. That's just an example that came up. Like, I think the adaptability is what's more important, and the trust and intention of all the members to make it work and be adaptable and work together.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Getting back to like your personal music history, it sounds like you've dabbled in a lot of different, like, you went to the music store for a flute, you came out with a trombone, but then you've mentioned tuba and guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, is this like something that did you jump around to a lot of different things out of like boredom from thing to thing, or do you have like a passion to learn as much about like the landscape of music and sound as you?
I think it's somewhere in the middle, as boring of an answer as that is. I mean, like, I don't think it's like, a lot of it was convenience. Mr. Man gave me a trombone, said I should do it, and I said, well, it couldn't hurt.
Sure.
I'm interested. I picked up instruments because I like learning the instruments. It's a desire to have that wide range of knowledge, but also, like, I have a banjo. I can play it a little bit. I can do things, but I really just like the sound of a banjo sometimes. I just like picking it up. I haven't put in extensive studious knowledge and effort to learning every instrument I've ever had. I think a lot of it is just appreciation, and then what ends up working. I mean, who knows? I could have picked up the clarinet and everything could have gone different. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I could have just not joined band, but still had that musical interest, and I would have started somewhere. And I would consider myself a bassist and a vocalist, and I also can write my style of guitar. I'm not like a guitarist. I wouldn't say I have the confidence in that, but I do write again, shameless plug. I got my project Sunrest. I wrote the majority of all that with a lot of help from Weeping Wounds drummer Lauren Whitaker. That guy is the best producer I will ever work with. I think our compatibility is just through the roof, right? I want his hands on everything I touch. But like, basically, I have knowledge, but a lot of things I'm not furthering as much as I could. And it's not because of disrespect or boredom. It is just, well, I'm the vocalist of a band. This is where I should be focusing my efforts. I'll pick up my bass. I'll have fun with it. I'll learn a song on a day that I'm bored, but a lot of it was, I like this song. I don't know how they play it. I'm curious. I want to learn how they play it. So I pull up, what was that Guitar Hero? No, not Guitar Hero. Well, Ultimate Guitar, ultimateguitar.com. That is the reason that I know anything on any instrument whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
But basically, it is appreciation for the craft and the way that my life has just absorbed the knowledge around me. It's definitely not as imperative that I learned this instrument. This instrument spoke to me. I needed it. It was just, if anything, that was with the vocals, and that was just because I heard really cool things that people I admired were doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It sounds like you're the instrument comes second to, like it's a tool for you to express yourself, and
Exactly.
that's
Like
that's the case
I
for
was an
a lot of
artist.
folks.
I liked photography. I've done visual stuff. I don't know if I really would call myself a visual artist. I do like photography a lot. I do come up with some pretty cool things, but visual art, I don't know. I was drawing comics when I was 14, 13, something like that. But I realized music is the way that I want to express myself. It's the way that my abilities and my interests aligned the most. So I gravitated towards it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
What kind of comics
Yeah.
were you making? Were you making like Gato Bio, or what were you doing
I
there?
was I was heavily inspired by Captain Underpants. I'm gonna be so for
Oh,
real,
okay.
man.
Okay.
And I wrote this comic. I didn't write it. I drew it. I drew and wrote this comic that was like an Elastic Man type thing, and I thought it was really good for what it was. My mom put that shit on the fridge. I had a friend in middle school who was writing books, and he inspired me to write a little bit. I never really got around to writing anything. I have a small short story or two somewhere in my notes. I have some concepts that I would like to flesh out, but I don't really know if writing large scale is the most desirable thing for me.
Yeah.
But he was doing a comic that definitely was pushing the art, and he gave me a few pages. Like he said, I said I might be interested in doing that. He said, all right, take my book, write what you think the story goes to next. And I drew a couple pages.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't draw them well, but I did it.
Making a
In
stretchy guy in a
Well, that was a
weird
different comic. That
situation.
was definitely more traditional
Oh,
anime
okay.
interest inspired. Mine was definitely more of like that cartoony, I guess, American comic. I don't really know if that's exactly how I'd say it, but what was I saying? From there, uh, fudge. What was it?
Oh, we don't have to stay. We don't have to stay in that
Yeah,
topic.
yeah, yeah.
I was curious because like the time when someone is introduced into comics can be like, it can be wildly different as like what influenced them, or what, like you said, like
hmm
what ends up on your mom's fridge or whatever, and
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Oh, and
yeah.
that was the thing. I just wanted to, it's not like I'm not wanting to talk about it, but yeah, there's not really much to add. But I did want to say that was the thing I remembered. In eighth grade, ninth grade, I don't know. I went to DC to go see some family, and they put me in an animation class. And so I did do some animation. I was garbage. I was not good. That was not for me. But
It's too much.
yeah,
It's
it was
like,
just,
6 hours of work for 3 seconds of
yeah.
it's a lot. Like, it's a lot. As far as I was drawing a music video for one of my bands, and I was like 2 days worth of like 6 hour, like, and even using Procreate, where I mean, you're not cheating, but you're like using the most
I mean, they're totally different
you're using like
tools
the
to use.
tools
Yeah.
like that are
Yeah.
available, and it's making it as easy as possible, and you're just like, so
Hmm.
you're copying your backgrounds. That's totally fine. You don't have to
Yeah.
redraw the backgrounds every time, you know.
Oh yeah.
But you got to
I mean,
draw this part, you got to move it, and it's like, I'm like, wow, I've done a lot of work. Like, hit play, and it's like 3 seconds, and you're like, wow,
yeah, like,
okay.
and like you said with cheating, I just want to throw this out. I don't think there's a lot of things that you can do that counts as cheating in art, other than straight plagiarism and AI. Those
Yeah,
are the
yeah,
two things that I think are cheating.
yeah,
And
yeah,
AI can even be good in some useful topics, but not when it removes the human element, not when it I don't know, costs people their jobs and plagiarizes and stuff like that. Like, I
yeah,
don't
for
know,
sure.
if you're just some Joe Schmo doing a D&D thing with your friends and you just want to visualize a character, slap that up there. But you know what? It would be nice if you paid that artist that $50 to get a good rendition. But ultimately, I don't think you're hurting much. But when you're doing mass layoffs and costing people their livelihood and security because you'd rather outsource entirely to a robot that plagiarizes everyone's work, when, you know what I mean? Stuff
Yeah,
like that, that is absolutely cheating. When you're being lazy and you just have no desire to learn how to put the effort in, because like that's what I was saying before, as a musician, you got to put the effort in. You're doing shit that you do not want to do. Simple as that. You may want to do most of it, but you're going to do things you don't want to do, and you have to do that, and you have to be comfortable with that notion.
yeah.
And if you're just circumventing the entirety of everything that it means, and then spitting in the face of every single person that's put the work in, no, I'm sorry, you're cheating. Bye.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll take it further than that. I think that like there's there's no, like, if you draw your D&D character, just for example, like if you draw that um to like the best of your ability, to me, no matter what that looks like in the end, that's cooler than like doing what, using Mid Journey
Oh,
or whatever.
absolutely.
And this goes back to sort of like that imposter syndrome is how you are comparing yourself to someone who did study
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
practice and train for 15, 20 years, and like we're like we none of us need to be doing that, like,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, it's
Well, see,
no,
I think a
nobody
lot of
knows
times,
that
yeah.
what you make isn't, like, nobody knows that what you did isn't exactly how you planned it until you tell them, is the thing,
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
Exactly. But like, I think when it comes to the imposter syndrome, because I do think that this is just such an interesting thing to talk about overall, not to make the whole, discussion about it, but it's like imposter syndrome. I, if you're putting the effort in, but you just don't feel like you know it, if you're comparing yourself to people that have put the effort in, but you're actively putting the effort in and you're really trying to learn, you don't need to have the knowledge to be the thing. As long as you are doing your actual genuine best in gathering said knowledge. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to do all these things, as long as you're trying to do them and doing it with passion and earnest, then you are what that is. You are an aspiring one at the bare minimum, right? But, I don't, I've realized when it comes to imposter syndrome and it comes to identity and associating yourself with your own art, it's you're you're not a dancer just be, or you're not no longer a dancer because you're not actively in a dance. You're not no longer an actor because you're not actively currently in a play, right?
yeah,
You are these things. These are things that are your identity and what you tie yourself to in your craft. If I was a writer that never published and I wrote every few weeks, then I'm still a writer. Maybe not as intensely as someone who is published and won awards and stuff, but that's notoriety, right?
yeah,
Notoriety is an acknowledgement and not the thing that makes you that. Granted, it reinforces it. When I have people say, wow, your voice is so nice and I love it, that's me going, yeah, I am a vocalist, right? But acknowledging and having that confidence in saying I'm a vocalist without anyone without needing that reassurement's always good, but without needing that and having that strong sense of identity, I think that's what you have to combat with imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is not a qualifier. It is a self-induced thing. It is a reflectionist ideal.
Sure, sure. Okay, so we've gotten to the point where we're talking about Burial of Joy and stuff, but we haven't like actually got
Yeah.
there. So, which is fine with me. Like sometimes it's I feel like I chat for a whole hour and we just barely talk about the band, which is
Man, I
fine.
love shooting the shit.
The songs will be there, so people will
Yeah.
hear the songs. But you said that a lot coming up to this point was learning experience, and that you sort of alluded to the idea that Burial Joy was sort of able to hit the ground running because of these learning experiences. And I think that from just listening to the album, that's pretty apparent. I think that okay, so from an outsider's perspective and just like seeing what's online, the band has not existed for terribly long. Maybe it has, and it was just leading up to this point. But you started releasing the couple of singles from the album in March. So it was like a single and then a single and then the album. But the album is a fully formed piece of work and a lot longer than a lot of like post-hardcore albums or whatever, or whatever you want to classify it as, than we're used to necessarily. But like the production of it, like everything, it feels very calculated and like like put through the notions, like you're like, this has to be perfect or whatever, or as close to that as you could imagine. When did the process for writing the album and starting to record the album, like when did this all begin, and like how long had the band been together at that point, like getting these songs together? Or was this all just sort of you and somebody else writing the songs? Like
No.
how did the project, come to be?
Right. This is a little complicated. I'll keep it kind of streamlined. I'll really try. But
Okay.
essentially, I was no longer in Sommer inspired. I wrote my solo stuff, and I was really itching to make music again with a group of people. Because the reason why I'm in a band is shows with my bros. I've always said that. I want to be able to have these experiences and play live and go out and do this. I dream of the day that I'm in a van with my friends touring, you know what I mean? Just because the simple lifestyle and just being with the homies, right? That's just so important to me. But the writing, like, so I basically, I looked for a band. I think I wanted to go a little bit more scramsy. I wanted to go a little bit more emo, not as straight post-hardcore, you know what I mean? And what I wanted to do, so I'm just on Facebook one day. Oh, one second. Okay. So basically, yeah, so sorry about that. So basically Josh, my drummer, he posted on Facebook saying, "Hey, I want to slow things down a bit. I want to start an emo band." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's me, right? Let's do that. That's what I've been looking for, right?" And he's been in a bunch of metal bands at that point. He was doing deathcore, he was doing metalcore, he was doing all that jazz. And so you know, he said he wanted to slow down and finally have something like that, and then here he is playing at 180 BPM blast beat songs. So I guess you can't really do much about that. He posted it. Him and I just started hanging out, just kind of getting a feel for each other's drumming styles. This is 5 years ago now, right? This is 5 years ago that Burial Joy it started. That's where the all of this leads up or comes from. We tried different guitarists, we tried different people. Realistically, what we were trying to do is just find a guitarist and do kind of a slower, more not Midwest emo, but like something along those vibes, the chill vibes. And I was going to play bass and sing, and then we just cycled out guitarists. We tried one person, it worked out for a little bit, then it didn't work out, then we tried another person, worked out, didn't work out, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, well, we found another guitarist. Okay, well, this guitarist is great, but his writing style isn't really aligning with the dynamic we already did, and we're ready to get the show on the road, and we're still writing good music. So we go ahead and find a bassist. We were like, okay, well, we need a bassist. I make a post on Facebook saying, "Hey, need a bassist for I don't remember exactly what I said." And Ian hit me up, and Ian just came over for practice. I said, "Well, me and the guitarist and the drummer are going to go to practice, so I guess you just show up and we're good to go." He comes over to my house. Second time I've ever met him. I honestly didn't remember meeting him the first time. My memory is not great, especially when it comes to meeting so many people, right? He comes up, we go to practice, and as we're setting up, this guy named Nico walks in, and he just looks cool. And I'm just a sociable person, so I'm like, "Hey, you look sick. What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm actually here to go practice a little bit. I just got my guitar in the storage unit." I'm like, "Oh, you're a guitarist?" And I literally was like, "Okay, you want to be in a band?" And then he showed up for many, many, many practices, and we wrote a bunch of stuff. Eventually, unfortunately, he felt as though what we were trying to go for was a little out of his wheelhouse, and have utmost respect for him. He's still friends. He helped us film the God's Teeth music video. Nico is a fucking dude. Love him. His back tat is crazy too. He just got that thing blasted on him. Crazy. So basically, he drops out. Got to find another guitarist. I scroll through Instagram or Facebook. No, I scroll through Facebook, and I just see this dude shredding and playing some really crazy stuff, and I'm like, "Oh wow!" So I hit him up. I'm like, "Hey, are you interested in being in a band, in a project?" And he was like, "Yeah." And that was Patrick. And he just showed up to practice. It was us and another. It was us, the guitarist that stuck around, Robin, and then it was Ian. Nico had already left, right? So Patrick comes in. So it's me, Josh, Ian, Robin, and Patrick. Well, Robin lives in Tampa, and he at the time just was not in a position to really commit to the location, all that jazz, because we were in Orlando. And so he went ahead and dropped out. And so, okay, so it's us four. Let's write songs. We tried writing in person. We got some cool things done. Like I have some live recording demos of songs that don't exist anymore. You know what I mean? Things that we probably don't even remember how to play, right? And so we wrote, and then basically from that point, we had the core solidified members, and we just started writing on Tabit and Guitar Pro, just tabbing out everything. It was working together to make, just realistically, it was all of us together, but it was mainly Patrick and Josh's writing styles that were putting on. Ian obviously was a big, heavy part in writing a lot of the stuff, but just in terms of delegating the leaders of writing the music, it was Patrick and Josh. Josh is an amazing writer, amazing songwriter. He can write some of the craziest shit. He just doesn't play the instruments. You know what I mean? And Patrick, again, his songwriting and his actual, I guess, knowledge of instruments. No, let me rephrase that. His personal style of guitar playing is so unique and so good that, like, I don't think that's. If we were to ever get another guitarist, like, that's going to be something that's immediately missing, because every individual is an individual. But basically, so. What is it? We started writing the songs. We kept it hush hush. This is maybe about 4 years ago now, because again, it took about a year of Josh and I's relationship to start getting a little bit of a foothold on things, and that's where we got the members, right? So after about a year of knowing each other, the members exist. Then took about maybe 3 years of consistently writing and just figuring out what our sound wanted to be, rewrite. If you meet up once a week, and that's when you're trying to write, especially if you're writing in person live and not using like a record software where you can write it down, then that shit just takes forever, man. So we wrote, we rewrote, we said this was difficult. We went to vocals, we rewrote them. It was just development hell, because we were trying to figure out, what do we want our sound to be? What songs do we enjoy playing, and what songs play to our strengths to be able, like, me as a vocalist, I can do certain things. I can't do everything, right? So just finding that balance of enjoyment, desire, and ability, And so once we had the songs written and we spent a good few months of just getting them down, we said, hey, I think we're ready to try something live. So at the start of 2023, I won't say the start exactly, like maybe it was at the end of 2022, but that's when we said, all right, let's get some experience. So what we did was we set up a house show at Patrick's old place. It was amazing. It was actually kind of really, really crazy how well that went. And the house show went well. Obviously some kinks because, first time performing live in front of people that, talk about that anxiety, it wasn't crazy because I was already comfortable on stage, or at least performing in front of others. But this was the first time we're presenting this, I guess, publicly, right? We'd have people that came by the storage unit and heard us rehearsing and would hang out and just stand by, so it's not like other people have never heard what we were working on, but at that point, that was us actively showing it out. We did shows for about a year, and through that, we just started making our connections and stuff. We threw a bunch of DIY stuff. I think we had 2 parking garage shows. One of them had a crazy turnout. One of them was unfortunately also shut down. What is it? And we basically just kept trying to get our bearings. And then we finally had our shit recorded. The process for recording was actually kind of smooth and straightforward. It was everything leading up to that was the difficult part.
Yeah. Well, because you mentioned that you were recording sort of like drafts of things as you were going.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, because the thing is that since we use Tabit or Guitar Pro, basically just something where you can write out the tabs and it just does an artificial MIDI sound, right? Like that's easy to help rewrite with. I mean, once in a while we'd write something and said, "Oh wait, that's not even feasible. That's not even something we can actively play. Let's rewrite that." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just all stuff like that. Realistically, we the biggest thing was just trying to. The reason why everything took so long is because at its core, at the very beginning, it was me and Josh, and we were just trying to build, and we had to be picky, we had to be choosy. Certain things that we wanted didn't work out, and certain things that we didn't want, we had to go ahead and say no to. Certain things fell into place, like Ian. Ian, just very simple, just picked him up. And basically, it was just us trying to figure out how we wanted to work together, you know?
Yeah.
Or I guess not necessarily how we want to, but what did work together between us, you know?
Yeah.
So it was development hell. We wrote, and then we basically played shows for a year. We didn't do anything public. Like we were obviously on flyers. We had a logo, but we weren't trying to like have the Instagram page then yet, because you know, you didn't even have the music ready to go. Once we had the music ready to go, we had about a year of shows under our belt, and then at the beginning of this year, we went ahead and got the single ready to go, released the single. Soon after, we had the second single. The hardest part of that was filming a music video in time and editing. Patrick did all, man, that dude, he literally, we were coming up with concepts and ideas and figuring out what we what we wanted the music video to be like based on like the message of the song, and et cetera, et cetera. And once we kind of compiled all of our ideas, he set up the logistics. He planned out every shot. He planned out what to film in what order. He told us the thing to get, you know, I mean, he did all the heavy lifting on that. And then once we filmed it, he did all the editing. So Mr. Man took charge of an entire music video, right? Shit's crazy.
Yeah.
But so so that was the hardest part. We dropped single 2, and then at that point we were just gearing up for the album release. And then that happened, I don't know, did it happen sometime in March? I don't remember when we released the album. Or was it April? It was April.
Yeah, I know there was some time between them, but did now you said like you were getting the singles ready. So, was the album completely recorded when you released the first single, or were you still like working on it?
Yeah. No, whole album was
Okay.
done and in our hands when single 1 came out.
Okay, so that was something
Yeah.
that like everything was done, and then it was just like plan like when to drop things.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, because I
Which
find that really interesting when bands like are still finishing the album, but like will throw the first thing out there because like how do you like navigate small changes or whatever to the overall like mix or whatever, you know, like it's
yeah,
if you've already
exactly.
done that, it's like
Right. We didn't want to release a song or a single and then work on getting an individual mix for that as well, right?
yeah
We definitely wanted to have our batch of songs consistent and ready to go, and then drop it that way, which is honestly the reason why we took so long to go public, because we just were really learning how to not learning how to record and make a good product, but more of like the logisticals, like, oh, I should go here at this time, I should do this, we should focus on recording this stuff around here. And obviously with everyone being an adult and having responsibilities and things outside of music, it just, you know, you can only get so much done so quick if you're only meeting up once every week, every 2 weeks, you know what I mean?
yeah
So really it's just how we know that we can't hunker down the way that we would like how cool would it be to just, I don't know, rent out a cabin, write an album, you know, but like, I don't know, we have jobs, we have rent, you know, so we have to write when we're free. We have to make sure that everything kind of is convenient to an extent. Obviously, again, not everything's going to be convenient, and you have to do things you don't want to do. But ultimately, you have to be able to meet up. And after a certain point, it's scheduling. You know, the logistics are a nightmare. Just because you know, there's no way to put everyone on a schedule because we're not paid for this yet. You know, like professionally level, right?
Yeah.
So fingers crossed. But yeah, so it's just it's really the reason why everything took so long was just because we wanted the music in our hands before we went public, and by public I mean online, right?
Yeah. So you know, after spending that much time, and sort of making sure all the, cross cross your T's and dot your I's and all that. Um,
Hmm.
what what was it? What did it feel like to finally put that out in the world? Was it just like a weight off your shoulders, or?
Man, I don't know. I feel like the weight off my shoulders was getting the music in hand. I feel like at that point I felt confident enough to kind of do whatever we had to do, and then it started getting to the point of like, all right, well, how do we market it? We got to present it. We got to come up with visuals. We got to do things like that. Like, coming up with the all the promos that we did, that took a long time because at that point no one had done that kind of art before, so we're trying to figure that one out. That one was mainly me and Josh getting all that set up. Patrick helped out a lot with the digital components. Like, he came up with a lot of the things that showed up on the TV that we used. Right, so it's just a lot of how do I say? It was just a group effort of getting everything there. It was very much like, all right, on to the next thing is what I'm trying to say. Like, we
Yeah.
had the music in hand and we were ready for the next step. It wasn't necessarily a relief to drop everything. Like, I no longer have to work. Honestly, the scariest part was knowing that now we're public and we have to. Now we have to keep that up. Like you said, hit the ground running. It doesn't matter how long we've been running when no one sees us. The moment that we go public is when we have to start running, right?
Yeah.
So if we've been sprinting for 3 years and you guys only see us sprinting for 3 months, then it was keeping that track. It was making sure that we didn't burn out. Giving each other the time and space that we needed to be able to I guess just conserve energy.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the thing about burnout. If you ignore rest, then rest will take itself.
Oh, for sure. Um,
Right. So you have to grant that time. You have to plan your rest.
yeah. So now that the album is out, like, and we're sort of like wrapping up the conversation, like, what's next for y'all? Like, now that like the album's been received, like, are you trying to plan a tour around it, or
Well,
things like
unfortunately,
that,
I
or?
don't know. Yeah, I don't know if tour is there just because we would have to. I mean, there's bands that are signed that they have to take risks when they tour because they
Oh,
don't
for
know if they'll
sure,
have a place to come back to. You know what I
for
mean?
sure.
Because again, rent, money, right? Just the cost of living and the fact that everyone's trying to make sure that they can survive,
Hmm.
right? Like, I don't know if touring is really in the cards right now, but everyone wants to.
Yeah.
Um, the album's out. We have something to show for it. We put effort in. People know that we exist. We're not fucking Taylor Swift levels or anything, but we are definitely like, people are listening to us. People have experienced us existing, right? So we have that baseline that is available for people to hop into and see. You don't have to be part of the moment at the moment. Now we have a back catalog in a way, even though it's our only catalog, but still it's out, right?
Sure.
So right now we have shows booked out, I think, one a month up until October, except for we don't have September right now, but I think right now we are currently focusing on writing. I think we have a good number of demo songs that are structured and complete enough for the next stage of writing. Ian and I typically get to once Patrick and Josh write out a song and submit one for, I guess, approval. Then Ian and I take that audio file of that demo and track really garbage versions of bass and vocals on it. We just did that for a song, so technically a song is written. But I still got to come up with all the harmonies. I got to come up with. I got to change up some lyrics because I realized while tracking that it doesn't fit as well as I thought it did in my head, right? So right now we are focused on writing new material, and we have new material. Like, we're not starting at zero right now. We definitely have songs written and ready to. I'm not ready to record, but ready to start getting it ready to record.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know,
That's
I
awesome.
think I think we're going to be focusing more on individual singles and getting them out in timely manners. Just because, what is it? Just because I don't know, marketing and promoting an entire album is difficult. You have We have a 10-song album. 2 of them are interludes, right? So it's really 8 full songs. And how do you promote all of that at once? You got to pick one song at a time. You got to promote this one, and the next week you start promoting the other one. And I almost feel like it would just be easier if I could promote one song for a month, and then when it comes out, then wow, we have that. Okay, everyone spent some time enjoying that. Song number 2, we're ready to go. Like the modern age's version of marketing is definitely very much constantly throwing something in your face. And unfortunately, I don't think we are well known enough to take a break.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
like no one's gonna forget about Bruno Mars. No, if he doesn't drop an album for 3 years, no one's going to forget that this man exists. He will drop an album 5 years. Frank Ocean. Imagine when Frank Ocean drops his new album. Everyone's waiting for it. You know what I'm saying?
our drummer is. I know that much.
Right?
I still don't know that I've heard a Frank Ocean song, but our drummer is constantly trying to change that. No, I don't have anything against it. It's just like not.
Oh no! It's just you haven't come across it. You haven't put the energy towards consuming it. That's not a bad thing. I get it, but ultimately, what I'm saying is just that we don't really have the luxury of not. If we want to make this work, we still have to put ourselves in people's faces, and
Sure.
that's the main thing right now. I'm just trying to get our sound and our look consumed by as many people as possible, and then the people that enjoy that will enjoy it, and they'll follow, and they'll listen to the music on their own time. Like I don't want to release something and then all of my friends and family listen to it once because they want to support me, and then our monthly listeners drop off because it was just people checking us out. We release it. I want to write stuff that people like. I want to be added to playlists. I want to be posted on stories and stuff because the music speaks to them to such a degree that they want to actually consume it, not regularly, but consistent enough. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, you know, people have bands that they follow, that they respect, that they like, and they will just say, man, I haven't listened to that album in a while. I really like that stuff. Let me go ahead and play it because I want it in my ears. And I don't want it to just be, Burial Joy released a song. I love those guys. Let me check it out, and then never listen to it again. Which is support, and I love that. And I'm not going to look that in the mouth. I really, really appreciate all the people that are close to us, that support us. They're the reason we're able to do it, because the amount of support that we've needed through this process is, immeasurable. So in no way, shape, or form am I looking down on what people have given us already, and what I hope they will continue to give us, because that's when you have people that genuinely support you, that's how people gauge if worth supporting. You know, it's just cyclical. It builds upon itself.
Yeah, for sure. As we're sort of like wrapping up, like where is Instagram the best place for folks to follow you and find all your links and stuff like that? Or
yeah, Instagram is definitely treated as the hub. We have a Twitter, but we're not famous enough for Twitter. TikTok is content consumption. It is to get a peek and take a look in, but also most of the stuff that's uploaded on TikTok is also uploaded on Instagram. So you're not missing out on any content by doing that, except for like a certain individual thing that ultimately, if you're really trying to get into the band, you don't need to look for that one deep dive TikTok. Like, it's not a big deal. Instagram is definitely the hub if you're trying to keep up and follow. Facebook is just Instagram cross-posted over to Facebook. So realistically, wherever you want to follow a band, we're on there. You know, we have the social media to follow if you're interested, but ultimately Instagram is probably going to be the one.
And that was my conversation with Lo from Burial Joy. Thanks so much, Lo, for taking the time to chat with me. If you have about an hour to check out those 10 tracks on Heirloom, wow, they really get all over the place. Anyway, I hope you had a good time listening wherever you are. Until next time, take care and do good things.